Sport now, and a look at the legacy of the 2022 World Cup, which wrapped up last night. After a late-night victory parade through the streets of Doha, the World Cup winning Argentine squad is expected to return home to Buenos Aires later to a tumultuous reception. Thousands of Argentine fans took over the capital city centre to celebrate their victory. While some were content with shouting, the more adventurous climbed on bus stops, poles and trucks. For many fans, this was the first time they had seen their side become champions in a tense and roller coaster match played in Qatar in front of some 88,000 fans. Argentina, led by star Lionel Messi, took home its third World Cup after beating France 4-2 on penalties after drawing 3-3 after real time. Well, for more on this, let's speak to the sports correspondent, Oluwatomiwa Tobi, who was out in Doha until a short while ago. Great to see you, Tobi. So the FIFA World Cup now done and dusted. The trophy for the next 4 years belongs to Argentina after an absolutely breathless World Cup final that ended in an epic victory. What did you make of it?
Well, Charles, it's good to be back. Unfortunately, not feeling too good for missing on the final over in Qatar, but really it was an explosive, interesting tournament capped off by a very big, interesting final. We saw goals. We saw the first time in a World Cup final, a player from either side, both teams scoring at least 2 goals. Messi with 2 goals, Mbappe with 3. And we saw the explosiveness. It was pretty much, to put it in poetry, it was Messi, the sun setting for him, and Mbappe, really, the sun rising for him. It was an absolutely beautiful final.
Well, absolutely. And of course, after landing the biggest prize of all, Argentina's captain Lionel Messi can now rightly claim to rank alongside the ultimate legends of the game, Pelé and Maradona.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Pelé tweeting at Messi after the game, congratulating him. I mean, for Messi fans or Messi stands, as it were, they've always seen Messi as one of the best players to ever grace the game. Winning the World Cup now puts him in the same pedestal globally with the likes of Maradona, with Pelé, like you mentioned. And it just caps up a truly illustrious career. We saw him back in 2005 under 20, then with playing against Nigeria in the final 2-1 win to Argentina. We saw a young 18-year-old Messi there. Now we've seen the very last international appearance, it seems, from Messi. A truly, truly beautiful career that you can only be glad somewhat that you were able to witness him from when he broke in to the Barcelona side, to the national team, and now making his final appearance for the national team and capping it with a trophy.
Absolutely. And from the French side, Toby, I mean, even as Argentina lifted the trophy, disappointment in France, I noticed, was turning to determination. One ardent fan said that France will be back because they won't have Messi in 4 years' time, but the French will still have Mbappe. What are your thoughts on how much of a truism that is?
I mean, we saw with all of the French fans that we spoke to, there's just that belief in Mbappe. Still very young, 23 years old, already a World Cup winner, if I might add. And he's literally the best player currently in the world and still in a very young stage. And he will pretty much be the leader for the next generation of French stars. We saw Tchouameni, we saw a couple of young stars get a couple of minutes in the games. And in the World Cup, perhaps, we saw a lot of fade away from the older players, the Giroud, the Messis, the Modric in Croatia. And now we're seeing the younger crop of players. And of the younger crops, definitely Mbappe is the best of the bunch. And you saw even his maturity at 23, he was almost single-handedly carrying the France side throughout the game yesterday, some would have said, well, Argentina were leading 2-0, they were gone, they'd won it already. But he got a hat-trick and scored the first penalty. Seeing how much importance he has to the team, he definitely will have big things for Mbappe in the future.
And of course, Tobi, Qatar was a controversial choice of venue. But from a footballing perspective, do you see it as hugely successful, this World Cup there?
Yeah, I mean, Qatar has had a bit of everything, really. For the neutral fans who aren't the sports skeptics, they would have enjoyed Qatar. It was safe, it was done in one city, so you didn't have to go far and wide, unlike the next World Cup, 3 countries to begin with. But for the ardent football fans, the die-hard fans, they might not have enjoyed it as much because you kind of Qatar football and alcohol has always been a relationship. Taking it out seemed like a social experiment that obviously did not bode well with the die-hard football fans. But as a neutral, you kind of get the experience of it all. You get the football. You saw the coming together of communities. You saw people bonding before and after the games, which was quite fun to see. And there's the argument also that nobody really watched the game, but the early data that we've seen already from FIFA seems to suggest about 3.5 million fans came to Qatar to actually see the game. And certainly from the very few fans that I spoke to and my experience there, it was definitely what's coming in. The football was good, the atmosphere was brilliant, and of course the final just capped it. A whole good tournament, made it all the more better.
So, Toby, where do you think Qatar 2022 will rank when compared to previous World Cups?
I mean, you can only look back as far as, say, the 1960s. We saw Brazil winning the second World back-to-back. And when we look a bit further in time, the Brazil 2014 was quite fun. It was for the fans, by the fans. You got the whole fans appeal from it. South Africa World Cup, you got that as well. Some would say Russia, you got some of that as well. But the Qatar one is the very first, I would say, as a social experiment, taking it away from the alcohol, which football has never really been known for. When we talk about the drama on field, when we talk about the unlikeliness of lesser teams beating the bigger teams, statistically, this has been the most unpredictable World Cup ever. When you look at the fan presence in the stadium, this has had the 3rd most fan attendance ever, according to data. Now, everything can definitely be interpreted. Definitely, for me, I'd still give Brazil as one of the best to ever, the World Cup we ever saw, 2014. But Qatar, I would say, it will go higher, much higher than people would have initially expected before the tournament.
And I put my money on your analysis any day. Oluwatomiwa,
Thank you,
Tobi,
Charles.
the sports correspondent. As always, thank you ever so much. And he's just returned to London from Doha.